The first thing I did after being reborn was grind 250 kilograms of meat and gather my whole family to make meatballs together. I did this because, in my past life, my stepmother had an affair with an unknown man and got pregnant with his child. Since she did not want my father to know about it, she deliberately caused a commotion at the market over the sale of eggs. As a result, she was pushed to the ground during the chaos and lost her baby. When she returned home, she wept pitifully and told my father, "If it weren't for Megan insisting we go snatch those discounted eggs, I wouldn't have fallen and lost our precious baby boy." Hastily, I tried to explain, but my fiancé stepped forward and sealed my fate when he yelled, "Megan Foster, I'm so disappointed in you. I know you are a greedy woman who likes to take advantage of others, like eating at restaurants without paying, stealing bulk snacks from supermarkets, and so on. However, this time you've gone too far. You caused Auntie to lose her child just for a few eggs. I can't marry someone like you. I'm calling off our engagement." Hearing this, my father flew into a rage. He chased me and slapped me across the face dozens of times. Then, he tied me up and sold me to an old bachelor in the village. I was locked in a pigsty, tormented until I bled out and died. Only after I had already died did I finally learn the truth. My fiancé was actually after my stepmother. Our engagement was just an excuse for them to be together. When I opened my eyes again, I was reborn on the same day my stepmother went to the market to get eggs and miscarried. My stepmother's call came in while I was holding my quilt tightly and crying my heart out. Instinctively, I picked up the call. My stepmother, Olivia James, spoke casually from the other end. "Megan, it's almost New Year's, so I'm heading out for a walk. I won't be home to cook today. You take care of the housework and make dinner for your dad and grandparents, okay?" She spoke as if it were a sure thing. She did not even give me a chance to refuse before adding, "Don't say anything to your father about my whereabouts. If he knew where I am, he'd come searching for me again, and I wouldn't have a moment to breathe." "Well, that's settled then. Megan, you're my good little girl. When I get back, I'll bring you something tasty." After Olivia stated her intention, she ended the call straight away and then rejected my call. I tried to call her 5 or 7 times, but every time, all I got was a busy tone. Suddenly, I realized that she had blocked me. This made me completely awake, and a cold sweat broke out in my rage. I was actually reborn. I had returned to the day my stepmother would pretend to have a miscarriage over some eggs. In my past life, my stepmother married my father in a hurry because she thought he was a rich man. Only after the wedding did she realize that she had married an ordinary old man who did not receive a pension. Everything he had shown off to her was actually mine. Although she was not happy, she had no choice but to go through with it. On that fateful New Year's Eve in my past life, my stepmother had called me with the same excuse. She said she wanted some air and asked me to take care of the household. I had agreed and gone back to the company since it was a busy day. I did not return home until evening to eat the New Year's Eve dinner. However, when I walked in, the house was eerily quiet. In the living room, my stepmother was crying while my father glared at me with fury in his eyes. Tears streamed down her face as she accused me. "Megan, it's all your fault. If you hadn't been greedy and dragged me to that market for those eggs, I wouldn't have been crushed by so many people and lost the baby." I was stunned and scrambled to explain. "Mom, what are you talking about? I was at work all day, even working late. I never went to the market with you." Just as I was about to show my work records as proof, my fiancé stormed over, snatched my phone, and smashed it to the ground before stomping on it. His voice was full of disappointment. "Megan, this is the last time you let me down. You've always been greedy and shameless, but now you've cost Auntie her child. I won't tolerate you anymore. I'm breaking off our engagement." That was all it took to convince my father. He finished his cigarette, locked his furious gaze onto me, and roared, "You wretched girl! You've doomed our family by killing my son." He yanked my hair and slapped me over a dozen times before tying me up and selling me to an old bachelor in the village. It wasn't until I was tortured to death that I learned the truth. My stepmother and my fiancé, Finn Collin, had been having an affair all along. The baby Olivia lost wasn't even my father's, it was Finn's. The two of them had been careless in their affair and forgot to use protection. Since they were so afraid of being exposed and condemned, they conspired to frame me. Their scheming was almost admirable if only it hadn't cost me my life. This time around, I wouldn't let those two scumbags have their way. A cold smirk curled on my lips as I decided not to step outside. Instead, I had 250 kilograms of ground pork delivered straight to our doorstep. As for work, I sent my boss a quick message requesting to work from home during the New Year's holiday. Being a key employee, my boss valued me highly and approved my request without hesitation. With everything settled, I leisurely got out of bed and washed up. When my family and I sat down to eat breakfast, the doorbell rang. It was the butcher. He hauled in 250 kilograms of minced meat before quickly departing. My father, grandfather, and grandmother all gawked at the sheer amount of meat. They immediately bombarded me with questions. I casually shifted the blame to my boss. The company we collaborate with had trouble settling their accounts by year-end, and my boss was pressing for payments. They decided to settle with goods instead. Since they're in the pork business, my boss turned this year's bonuses into minced meat for employees to take home and make meatballs. Grandma was stunned. "This much meat? It's got to be at least 250 kilograms. At this rate, it will take a long time to make meatballs." Grandpa sighed. "Well, I guess I'm stuck here today. I was planning to meet my old pals for a chess game, but it looks like that's off the table. After sending the butcher away, I turned to my father. Dad, we can't let all this meat go to waste. Grandma and Grandpa have spoken, so you'd better get to work and make meatballs with us. Wash your hands and start working. Grumbling under his breath about how unreliable the company was, Dad rolled up his sleeves and got to work. Within moments of chopping vegetables and herbs, he was sweating heavily. On New Year's Eve, while other families were busy putting up decorations and setting off fireworks, while adults and children played together, ours was hard at work making meatballs. As the strongest person in the house, my father ended up handling most of the work. He chopped the vegetables and herbs and mixed the mixture. He spent the entire morning working and sweating. By noon, we were all starving, and that's when my father remembered my stepmother, who was supposed to be out shopping. It's already 12:30, and your mother still isn't home to cook. What's she doing out there? Feigning innocence, I shrugged. I don't know. I called her 5 or 6 times this morning, but she blocked me. Maybe she's mad at me. Why don't you try calling her, Dad? My father frowned and pulled out his phone to call Olivia. Ring, ring, ring. He had made 3 consecutive calls, but Olivia still did not answer. His face darkened with frustration and anger as he turned to me. Did you argue with your mother? Otherwise, why wouldn't she answer my calls? Megan, you're 25 years old already. How can you still be acting like a child and upsetting your mother? I pouted and pretended to be upset, then pulled out my phone and played back a recorded call. Dad, you're blaming me unfairly again. This time, it's clearly you who made Mom refuse to come home. I played the recording in front of the entire family, and my stepmother's voice rang clearly from my phone. The moment my father heard her say she didn't want him to find her, his expression turned grim. Silently, he lit a cigarette and smoked for a long time with a sullen face before finally calming down. Grandpa and Grandma stepped in to console him while I took the opportunity to order 4 sets of takeout. Dad, Grandpa, Grandma, since Mom isn't coming home to cook and we're all busy making meatballs, let's just eat some takeout for now. Grandpa and Grandma praised me for being a good child, while my dad remained silent, feeling upset and depressed. This tense atmosphere lasted until the evening. After countless hours, we finally finished making 250 kilograms of meatballs. By then, our hands were so sore they could barely move. My dad stepped out to buy a pack of cigarettes, while Grandpa and Grandma went into the kitchen to start cooking the meatballs. I sat on the couch, scrolling through my phone, occasionally glancing up at the night sky with a faint smile. This time, I had stayed home the entire day and never took a single step outside. No one could possibly pin my stepmother's miscarriage on me again, or so I thought. Just as I took a sip of water, the front door burst open. My so-called fiancé, Finn, stumbled in, supporting my stepmother, Olivia. The moment she saw me, her eyes turned red with rage, and she immediately started screaming. Megan, you're truly heartless. I have been nothing but kind to you, yet you deliberately caused me to lose my baby. I did not even have a chance to say anything before my fiancé, Finn, chimed in, his voice filled with disappointment. That's right, Megan. I never thought you'd be this cruel. You've really let me down. I can't be engaged to someone like you, so I'm calling off the wedding. I blinked innocently. What are you talking about? Mom, were you really pregnant? Since when? Why didn't I know about this? Olivia's tears fell even harder at my response. Don't pretend you don't know. I only told you last night that I was pregnant. Then this morning, you tricked me into going to the market for discounted eggs because you knew it would be crowded. You made sure I got pushed around until I miscarried. I barely survived in the hospital, and now you're standing here acting clueless and asking me about this? She sobbed. How could you do this, Megan? Women should support each other, but you, ugh, you don't even have a heart, she shrieked again. Our whole family still lived in an old courtyard house, despite owning a new apartment in a modern district. It was tradition, insisted my grandparents. Since tonight was New Year's Eve, many of our neighbors gathered outside to build snowmen and set off fireworks, naturally overhearing the commotion at our house. Being busybodies, they started gathering around our door, eager to watch. Olivia purposely stood at the door and did not step inside. Instead, she yelled at the top of her lungs. When the neighbors heard her accusation, they looked at me with disdain. I always thought Megan was such a sweet girl. Who knew she had such an evil heart? Looks can be deceiving. We watched her grow up, but we never really knew what she was capable of, someone muttered. One middle-aged woman shook her head. That settles it. I need to warn my son and daughter-in-law to stay away from her. Who knows what she might do to my family one day? Voices of agreement rose around her. One by one, the neighbors made it clear they would not let me near their children anymore. Tears welled up in my eyes. However, this time, they weren't from helplessness or despair like in my past life. No, this time they were from excitement. Seeing my reaction, Olivia assumed I was scared of her accusation, so she became even more dramatic, painting me as the villain to anyone who would listen. Meanwhile, my fiancé, Finn, didn't even give me a chance to explain. He grabbed my arm and forced me to kneel before Olivia. In the past, children were expected to respect their elders. Not only have you failed to honor your stepmother, but you also caused her to lose her child. You have to apologize and make amends. As a woman, you should obey your father and then your husband after marriage. So, as your fiancé, it's my responsibility to teach you a lesson. With that, he yanked my hair and forced me to bow my head, pushing it down repeatedly until it hit the floor with painful thuds. Blood trickled down my face, but Finn acted as if he didn't see it. Instead, he took it even further. An apology alone isn't enough to make up for the loss of a child. There has to be material compensation as well. Megan, hand over your year-end bonus so your stepmother can buy nutritional supplements. And while you're at it, sign over your new apartment to her so she has a comfortable place to recover. Hearing Finn's self-righteous speech, I couldn't help but laugh in disbelief. The absurdity of the situation hit me, but at the same time, everything became crystal clear. Finn and Olivia had teamed up against me. Not only did they want to get rid of me, but they also had their eyes on my year-end bonus and my property. Everything finally made sense. Now, I understood why Finn suddenly became obsessed with me and pursued me relentlessly just after my stepmother married my father. Before, I found it strange. When did our foster family become so popular in the matchmaking market? Now, I understood everything. When I realized this, I did not hesitate. I leaned forward and spit directly at Finn's face. Puffed, she only lost her bastard child, and now you think you can take my year-end bonus and property? Where do you get the audacity? Both Finn and Olivia were momentarily stunned, but soon their shock turned into fury. Olivia started sobbing dramatically. Finn, stop talking. Megan has never liked me as her stepmother. She'll never listen. Forget it. A stepmother is unwelcome no matter where she goes. Outsiders despise me, and now even my own family wants to harm me. If I had known this would happen, I would have rather died. Seeing Olivia make a show of running towards a tree to bang her head, Finn immediately grabbed her and comforted her in a soft voice. Auntie, don't be sad. I already called Uncle Thomas. He'll be here soon to set things right for you. After all, Uncle Thomas is the head of the family. Everything he says is the law. Megan has to obey him. The gathered neighbors nodded in agreement. They stopped what they were doing, brought out their stools, and sat in front of my house. They were waiting for my dad to arrive. I tell you, Thomas Foster needs to teach that girl a lesson. She's gotten too bold, even daring to bully her elders. Didn't you hear what she said? She called Olivia's baby a bastard. That's just outrageous. Having such an evil daughter is truly a punishment. Hearing the neighbors' words of condemnation, Olivia's eyes gleamed with satisfaction. She threw me a quick, triumphant glance, thinking she had me cornered. However, she was in for a disappointment. Meeting her gloating gaze, I merely curled my lips in a mocking smirk. I didn't even bother responding. She kept on wailing, completely oblivious that my dad's face was growing darker and darker. By the end of it, his face was a mixture of red, black, and green. A real festive touch for the new year. Yet, Olivia remained completely oblivious. She was too caught up in demanding compensation for her miscarriage. Thomas, you've spoiled your daughter rotten. That's why she disrespects her elders and deliberately harms her own brother. You should beat her hard. Oh, and while you're at it, tell her to hand over her year-end bonus and the house. What does a girl need so much money for anyway? If she's obedient, she should have at least a few tens of $1,000s she saved up. She was getting more and more excited, speaking faster and louder. However, after a while, she finally noticed something was wrong because the entire courtyard had gone silent. Even the neighbors, who had been munching on sunflower seeds like they were watching a drama, had stopped. Slowly, she turned to look at my father, only to meet his dark, murderous glare. Olivia instinctively shivered and hesitated before speaking again. Thomas, why aren't you saying anything? My father clenched his teeth, his jaw tightening. So, are you saying that early this morning, Megan dragged you out to fight for discount eggs and that's how you lost the baby? Yes. Finn can vouch for me. When I was bleeding out, she ran away, and it was him who drove me to the hospital. As if on cue, Finn stepped forward and nodded firmly. That's right, Uncle Thomas. I happened to be shopping at the mall when I saw Auntie having a miscarriage. I rushed her to the hospital. It was a grueling nightmare from morning till night. The moment he finished speaking, Olivia eagerly pointed at me. Hurry up and hit her. Look at that brat, Thomas. She's staring at me with such disrespect. She has no sense of decency. Her eyes lit up with triumph. She didn't even bother calling me by my name anymore. Instead, she called me the brat, as if I was beneath her. She was so sure my father was about to beat me up. Slap! Slap! Unfortunately, 2 resounding smacks landed on Olivia's face, one on each cheek, perfectly symmetrical. Within moments, bright red handprints bloomed on her skin. She stood frozen, too stunned to react. Then, with a voice full of disbelief, she shrieked, Thomas, why are you hitting me? You should be hitting Megan. I wasn't the one who wanted to lose the baby. It was Megan. She killed our son, so you should be punishing her, not me. Olivia wanted to keep babbling her indignation, but when she finally noticed the way my father was looking at her, seeing how his face twisted in fury and his fists clenched and unclenched at his sides, her voice became lower and lower until she finally fell silent. My father spat on the ground and grabbed a fistful of her hair. In front of all the stunned neighbors, he swung his arm and rained down a flurry of slaps. Slap! 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 After a series of slaps, Olivia's face was so swollen she barely looked human. She looked at my dad incredulously, tears of humiliation flowing from her eyes. I get it now. I finally get it, she whimpered, her voice shaking. I'm so disappointed in you, Thomas. Just to protect your precious daughter, you'd rather beat me senseless. You're trying to silence me with violence. Seeing Olivia being humiliated, Finn panicked. He rushed over, grabbed my father's arm, and pulled him back with force. Uncle Thomas, what's wrong with you? Even if Megan is your biological daughter, you can't just blindly take her side without considering the truth. Auntie Olivia carried your child. She had just lost her baby. Shouldn't you be comforting her instead of attacking her? The neighbors, who had been enjoying the show, started getting angry as well. Thomas, what's wrong with your family? The younger one disrespects her elders, and the older one beats his wife. Why do you have to ruin the holiday for the whole village? Ugh, can we still respect him? He doesn't deserve to be one of us anymore. I'm telling the others that we're cutting ties. We're done with him. That's right. That family has gone too far. I'm calling the police. They both need to be arrested. Both father and daughter are alike. When she heard the neighbors rally behind her, Olivia's panicked expression vanished. She straightened up and turned back to my father, her fear replaced with cold calculation. She choked back a sob and declared, Thomas, if you don't stand up for me, then let's get a divorce. However, let me make one thing clear. I will report this to the police. Megan caused my miscarriage, and you hit me in front of everyone. I demand justice. She purposely emphasized the word police. It was clear that she was using it as a threat. If my father didn't comply, she'd make sure he ended up in jail for assault. Finn, seeing my father hesitate, assumed he was afraid and eagerly added fuel to the fire. Uncle Thomas, your family's actions have been disgraceful. Megan caused Auntie Olivia's miscarriage, and instead of making amends, you hit her when she was at her weakest. If you don't offer proper compensation, this won't end well. Well, how about this, he said. As Megan's fiancé, I'll be the voice of reason. First, you and Auntie Olivia get a divorce. As an apology, half of the marital assets go to her. Second, since Megan is responsible for Auntie Olivia's miscarriage, she must hand over her year-end bonus and transfer the house to Auntie Olivia's name. Third, you must swear in front of everyone and sign a legal agreement promising never to reclaim the assets given to Auntie Olivia. Fourth, I refuse to associate with your family any longer. I'm breaking off my engagement with Megan. I want my betrothal gifts returned, but don't expect to get back her dowry from me. This last part is just my personal decision and has nothing to do with Auntie Olivia. After finishing, Finn arrogantly tilted his chin. He was waiting for my father to bow his head in submission, but the next second, I burst into laughter. My laughter infuriated Finn. He spun toward me and snarled, Megan, how dare you laugh? However, my father's fist was faster than his curses, and before he could finish his sentence, my father's fist had connected with his face. A loud thud echoed in the courtyard. Finn, who had always prided himself on his good looks, clutched his swollen cheek in shock and yelled, Uncle Thomas, I'm Megan's fiancé. How could you hit me? My father scoffed. Fiancé? Didn't you just say you were breaking off the engagement? Do you think I'm deaf? Finn furrowed his brows. It seemed he did not want to argue with an unreasonable man. Yes, I'm withdrawing my engagement with Megan. However, I'm suggesting that solution with sincere intention. You can ask the neighbors if you don't believe me. Olivia added her own threat. Thomas, it seems you don't want to settle this privately. Okay, let's call the police and go to public court to settle this matter. At that time, the neighbors present will be my witnesses. Olivia took out her cell phone to call the police, and also used her words to get the surrounding neighbors' sympathy. However, she didn't expect that the neighbors, who were still somewhat sympathetic to her, suddenly frowned and took a few steps back. Beth, the next-door neighbor, shook her head and said, Olivia, it's not a good thing to go to the police station on New Year's Day. Even though you did not celebrate the new year, we still do. I can't help you act as your witness. Fred also agreed. Yes, my daughter and son-in-law are finally coming back. I don't have time to go to the police station as a witness. I don't want to get involved in this matter. Find someone else, I won't go. With Beth and Fred's statements, the others also refused to go and did not want to be witnesses. Olivia was stunned. Her eyes darted to Finn, asking for help. Finn pulled her aside and tried to console her. Then he turned his attention to the neighbors who were about to leave. Everyone listen to me, he called out. You all saw how Auntie Olivia was wronged in front of you. And now that she wants to call the police, none of you are willing to testify for her? If you look at it one way, it just shows a lack of neighborly kindness. However, if you look at it another way, you're enabling wrongdoing. It's people like you who make society cold and indifferent. His words immediately sparked a reaction. The bystanders, who had only been watching, were now indignant. Hey, young man, who do you think you are, accusing us like that? What do you mean by enabling wrongdoing? What do you mean by cold and indifferent society? You sure look educated, but the words coming out of your mouth are disgraceful. Didn't your family teach you any manners? Exactly. Since when does watching a commotion mean we have to get involved? It's the new year, no less. Who wants to spend the holiday at the police station? When he saw the neighbors grow even angrier, Finn's face darkened. He was losing control of the situation, and in his frustration, he blurted out, You're all accomplices. Auntie Olivia is suffering because of people like you. You all saw her being bullied, yet you refused to testify. That's obstruction of justice. I'm going to call the police and have you all taken in. His words completely burned the neighbors' anger. The older ones surrounded him and lectured him on basic decency, while the younger ones rolled up their sleeves, ready to settle things physically. In the middle of the chaos, my father and I, who had been under attack just moments ago, were now forgotten in the background. I watched as the talk of a miscarriage and blame faded into the noise. Olivia's face twisted with resentment, and when she glanced at Finn, there was a flicker of dissatisfaction in her eyes. However, she knew she had lost, and the situation had turned against her. Forcing a smile, she lowered her head and began apologizing to the neighbors, trying to smooth things over. "Uncles, aunties, grandpas, and grandmas, please wait," I called out loudly. "We've prepared meatballs for everyone." The neighbor hesitated and paused their steps. One person scoffed, not bothering to hide their disdain. "Megan, save it. Your fiancé has been running his mouth, and you're no saint either. I wouldn't dare eat meatballs from your family." Several others nodded in agreement, making it clear they wanted nothing to do with us. This was exactly what I had been waiting for. My body trembled with excitement because I was finally able to say what I wanted to say. With all eyes on me, I took a deep breath, stepped forward, and threw open my front door, revealing the table inside. On it sat stacks and stacks of meatballs. Tears welled in my eyes as I spoke, my voice trembling with emotion. "Uncles, aunties, grandpas, grandmas, you've all misunderstood me. I never caused my mother's miscarriage." As I said this, I turned to Olivia, my gaze filled with pain. "Mom, I don't know why you're accusing me, but this is the last time I'll ever call you that. I've always treated you like my real mother. Whenever I got something good, I gave it to you first. However, you never saw me as your daughter. Instead, you framed me for something so cruel. Auntie Olivia, you've really broken my heart." Hearing my words, some of the neighbors began to murmur among themselves. She's not lying. I've seen how Megan treats Olivia. She's always been respectful and considerate, almost like she forgot that Olivia was her stepmother. However, not everyone was convinced. "Just because she acts nice on the surface doesn't mean she doesn't have ulterior motives," someone countered. "Look at what happened today. She used Olivia's trust against her and caused her to lose her baby." I turned to the person who spoke, my eyes red, and slowly shook my head. "Auntie, you've really misunderstood me." I took a deep breath and turned to the crowd. "Look at all these meatballs in my house. My company gave out fresh ingredients for the new year, and we received 250 kilograms of minced meat this morning. My entire family has been so busy making meatballs all day that no one had time to leave the house. We didn't even have time to make lunch, so we had to order it. I've been rolling meatballs right here under my dad and grandparents' watchful eyes until my hands cramped. How could I have taken Olivia to fight over eggs and pushed her into a crowd like she claimed?" With that, I gestured for everyone to come inside. "You can see for yourselves that our house is packed with meatballs. I've been working nonstop making them." The neighbors hesitated but stepped in one by one. When they saw the dining table overflowing with neatly arranged meatballs, their eyes widened in shock. "Megan, did your family make this many? You won't be able to finish them all before they go bad," someone exclaimed. I sighed. "That's exactly why I wanted everyone to take some home. That way, you won't have to go through the trouble of making them yourselves." Just then, my grandparents emerged from the kitchen, carrying a steaming pot of freshly cooked meatballs. Seeing the unexpected guests, they beamed and waved them in. "Jane, Beth, don't be shy. This year, enjoy our meatballs. You don't need to cook at home." The same auntie who had accused me earlier hesitated before asking, "Uncle and Aunt, was Megan really at home making meatballs all day? She didn't step out even once." My grandparents chuckled warmly. "Of course. Don't be fooled by her young age. This girl has real patience. She sat there making meatballs for hours." "That's right," Grandpa added. "When Olivia didn't come home for lunch, Megan was the one who ordered takeout for us. The dishes were from a fancy restaurant. They were delicious. This child is truly kind." With that, the lingering suspicions in the room crumbled. Those who had doubted me moments ago now looked guilty. They whispered apologies as they approached. I smiled and waved it off. I personally handed over meatballs to every neighbor and made sure each family got their share. However, just when I thought the matter was settled, Finn stepped forward, his tone sharp. "Megan is part of the foster family. Who's to say they aren't covering for her? I find it very suspicious. Otherwise, why did Uncle Thomas react by hitting his wife instead of questioning Megan first?" At this, my father's expression darkened. He stepped up, his voice cold. "It's because I was there all day too. I saw with my own eyes that Megan had never left the house. I knew right away she was being framed." Finn scoffed. "A father protecting his daughter is only natural. Few would truly choose justice over family." Before he could finish his thought, I pulled out my phone and played a recording of Olivia's earlier call to me. Her voice rang through the room. "Megan, it's almost the new year. I'm heading out for a walk and won't be back to cook. Help me with the chores and make sure your dad and grandparents eat, okay? Don't tell your dad where I'm going, or he'll come looking for me again. I need some space to breathe." "That's settled then. Megan, you're my thoughtful little girl. I'll bring you something nice when I get back." In the 3 recordings played back to back, she spoke hurriedly, not even giving me a chance to respond before hanging up. Then I took it a step further. I dialed Olivia's number in front of everyone. The phone rang and rang, but no one answered. Before she could gather her thoughts, I grabbed a neighbor's phone and dialed again. This time, her phone rang out loud in her pocket. The entire room fell silent. All eyes turned to her, their sympathy now replaced with suspicion. Olivia's face turned pale. She clearly hadn't expected me to record our conversation. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her gaze flickered toward Finn, silently pleading for help. Finn's face darkened, but in order to protect Olivia, he had no choice but to step in. Feigning both reprimand and defense, he said, "Aunt Olivia, you were wrong to do this. When you had the miscarriage, you kept calling Megan's name. I thought you wanted her by your side, not that you were blaming her for your miscarriage. Olivia choked back a sob, her eyes brimming with tears. Megan, I'm so sorry. I was just too panicked. I thought, since you are Thomas's biological daughter, if I pinned the blame on you, Thomas wouldn't hold me responsible for the miscarriage and he wouldn't divorce me. Megan, I promise I will never falsely accuse you again. Can you forgive me? Though their explanation was full of holes, no one wanted to press further during the festive season. The neighbors, seeing Megan's remorse, quickly tried to smooth things over. All right, nothing bad actually happened. It was just a misunderstanding. Let's all just let it go. It's New Year's Eve. Exactly. Let's go home and cook our meatballs for New Year's Eve dinner. The neighbors started dispersing in twos and threes, demonstrating just how easily they swayed with the wind. My father's expression softened as well. His gaze toward Olivia gradually turned less severe. Even Finn started circling my father, saying flattering things in hopes that he would drop the matter entirely. Everyone wanted to go home and celebrate the new year, but this time, I wasn't going to let them have their way. As I thought about my tragic fate in my past life, where I was sold to an old bachelor and tortured to death, I felt an unprecedented chill toward Olivia and Finn. I pulled up the photos my private investigator had sent me and held up my phone for everyone to see. Olivia, Finn, encountering you two scumbags on New Year's Eve is the worst luck imaginable. If it weren't bad luck to say such things during the new year, I would ask you both how you can still be alive after doing something so despicable. Olivia and Finn's faces turned ghastly pale. Finn immediately tried to get a closer look at the photos on my phone, while Olivia's eyes instinctively turned red as she cast a pitiful glance at my father and said sadly, Thomas, I already apologized to Megan, but she still refuses to forgive me. Now she's cursing me to die on New Year's Eve. My father looked like he was about to scold me, but when he recalled Olivia's earlier actions, his perception of her had completely changed. He hesitated, his lips parted, then shut again, ultimately saying nothing. Noticing his hesitation, Olivia's heart sank, and she discreetly inched away from him and moved closer to Finn. The neighbors who had been about to leave turned back, their brows furrowing in displeasure as they looked at me. Megan, your stepmother wrongly accused you, but she's already apologized. What more do you want? You're even dragging your fiancé into this? A young girl like you, why do you have such a big temper? If this had been before, their accusations would have made me feel aggravated, but after seeing how they blindly sided with the stronger party, I no longer took them seriously. So what if they had watched me grow up? In the end, they were nothing more than strangers who had nothing to do with me. I couldn't even be bothered to explain myself. Instead, I handed my phone directly to my father. Dad, I'm doing this for you. Everything I just said was on your behalf because Olivia's miscarried baby was never yours. It was Finn's. A loud thud echoed as someone's meatballs dropped to the ground. At this moment, no one cared about the wasted food. Their eyes gleamed with excitement as they crowded closer, unable to believe what they had just heard. What? Olivia's baby was Finn's. Thomas, what did Megan show you on her phone? Let us see too. My father's face darkened as he pulled out a cigarette. He took a deep drag before tossing the phone to the crowd. You guys can see for yourselves. Don't bother my old man to clean up the mess. With that, he stormed toward Olivia and Finn, who had been trying to sneak away. In a flash, he grabbed them both, one in each hand, and slammed their heads together with a force that made a sickening thud. My father had been a boxer in his youth, and even now, he never neglected his training. The impact left swollen lumps on their foreheads, and the two collapsed onto the ground, momentarily dazed from the blow. Finn, still in a daze, tried to pin the blame on me. This is all Megan's revenge. Auntie Olivia and I are innocent. How could she be pregnant with my child? That's absurd, especially since we're not even from the same generation. Hearing his desperate denial, Olivia's face twisted with indignation. However, given the situation, she had no choice but to go along with him. With my father's piercing glare burning into her, she quickly added, That's right, Thomas. This is ridiculous. Finn is nearly 20 years younger than me. I've always treated him as a future son-in-law. There's no way I'd ever be involved with him. Their desperate performance didn't faze my father one bit. He snatched the phone from the neighbors and shoved the screen in their faces. Do you still want to deny it? You claim you have nothing to do with each other. Then what the hell is this? Olivia looked at the phone and immediately turned pale. On the screen, crystal-clear photos displayed her and Finn tangled together in bed. I was not sure why they didn't do it at a hotel. Instead, they did it inside Finn's car. Maybe they did it there for excitement, or even to save some money. The detective I hired had been tailing them all day, and this was the evidence he had sent me while I was rolling meatballs. Finn still refused to give up. This is fake. This has to be fake. Megan, AI technology is advanced these days. You probably just had someone generate these pictures to frame us. I won't accept this. With his reminder, Olivia's eyes also sparkled. That's right. You're deliberately slandering us, Megan. You just want revenge. I simply smiled, completely unfazed by their accusations. I pulled out another file calmly. If you're so sure the photos are fake, what about this? Is a hospital report also something I fabricated? I enlarged the screen to reveal a clear medical report. Right here in black and white, the DNA test states that Olivia's unborn child shares a 99.999% match with Finn's. I tilted my head and smirked. So tell me, Finn, if you're not the father of that child, then what are you? The grandfather? The moment those words fell, my father, who had been stunned on the side, completely lost it. With a roar, he lunged at them and beat them up. His punches landed hard, sending Finn and Olivia sprawling. Their screams and pleas for mercy echoed through the courtyard, but he didn't stop until his rage had finally cooled. The neighbors had initially thought about intervening, but after catching sight of my father's murderous glare, they all shut their mouths. One by one, they quietly slipped away, suddenly finding themselves very busy with their own New Year's preparations. Doors slammed shut all around the courtyard, completely cutting off the sounds of the ongoing beating. No one wanted to be involved in this mess. By the time my father finally let go, both Finn and Olivia had stopped making noise. I hurried over and splashed a bottle of cold water on their faces. Ah, it's freezing. It's so painful. The two of them jolted awake and wailed in pain. They wanted to threaten my father with assault charges, but before they could say a word, the sound of police sirens blared outside. I raised my phone. I was the one who called them. Seeing their horrified expressions, I continued. Ever since you two started making a scene, I've been recording everything. Every single word and action you used to try and scam us out of our family's money? It's all on tape. After all the evidence I gathered, I have every reason to believe that you two are running a scam and deliberately trying to swindle my family's money. You need to be taken to the police station for a proper investigation. Finn's eyes burned with rage and he scolded me. Megan, have you lost your mind? If you get us arrested, we'll press charges against your father for assault. Before I could respond, my father stepped forward and said in a low, steady voice, Then you're welcome to take me in too. A few days behind bars? That's nothing. When I get out, I'll make sure you regret ever crossing us. When they heard his words, both Finn and Olivia fell silent. They knew he was not bluffing. My father had controlled his strength while hitting them. At worst, he would be detained for a few weeks. However, once he was out, they'd be the ones in real trouble. They opened their mouths as if to argue but, in the end, said nothing. The police escorted Olivia and Finn into the patrol car. My father got in as well. Just before the door closed, he turned to me and spoke. I used to think that, as a girl, you wouldn't be able to uphold the foster family name. No matter how capable you were, I never truly acknowledged you. However, now I finally realize how outstanding my daughter is. I was so very wrong. Go home and take care of your grandparents. It's New Year's, so don't let them worry. I'll handle this and be back soon. When I return, we'll have meatballs together as a family. The walls of strength I had built all day finally crumbled. I looked at my father, my eyes growing warm with unshed tears. When I met his remorseful gaze, I nodded firmly. All right, I'll go home and cook the meatballs. Take care of this matter and come back soon. As for Grandpa and Grandma, I will take them to watch the gala while we wait for you. That night, despite the harsh winter winds and swirling snow, my father returned home, and our family celebrated the new year together. The next day, ignoring the curious gazes of our neighbors, we moved into the new home I had secretly bought long ago. As for Finn and Olivia, they were convicted of fraud and sentenced accordingly. My father, having faced his own mistakes, never laid a hand on me again. The pain and suffering of my past life would not repeat itself. It was time to let go. There was no point in holding myself captive to the past, and it would be much better to welcome a new beginning with the sound of crackling fireworks on New Year's Eve.